If I'm Mars and my cat is the moon, this is what the occultation looked like if you missed it. December was a great month for the planet Mars. Along with its opposition, we also saw its occultation with the moon. For me, I was only able to see a conjunction and no actual occultation. The moon and Mars got really close together, but they didn't actually touch. And I was pretty sure that the clouds were going to ruin it for me because it has rained for a few days, and it was cloudy all day and the forecast was not looking good. Until the very last moment. The clouds cleared and I ran out with my 6SE and DSLR on a manual equatorial mount, and I was able to snap this shot of the conjunction. This is one of the closest approaches that I was able to see from my area. Unfortunately for me, I wasn't in an area where I could see the actual occultation, where Mars disappears behind the moon and reappears at a later time. And using my EQ mount, I was able to manually track Mars for about an hour or so, and I was able to create this time lapse where you can see the moon getting close to and then moving far away from Mars. It's a little bit choppy because of the occasional clouds, so I'm missing a whole bunch of frames. But I'm happy with it, and if you were able to see the occultation or the conjunction, please let me know. I'd love to see your photos. The night after the conjunction, Mars was still at opposition, so it was very big and bright. The atmosphere is still very turbulent, so when I tried to image it, it wasn't as clear as my test shot a couple of weeks earlier. But I still set up outside in my backyard using the same setup as my test run, where I use my 6SE on my AVX mount, my Teleview 3X Barlow, and my 533 MC Pro AstroCam connected to a laptop running FireCapture. I took a whole bunch of videos with different settings as tests, and this is one of the videos. I put the file into PIPP and set the planetary optimization settings. PIPP misunderstood the debayer settings, so in the input options I changed the debayer pattern to RGGB. And in the processing options I turned off cropping since I was already cropped in quite a bit. Left all the other options as is and processed it. And this is the video that PIPP spat out a few seconds later. You can see that the quality isn't as good as my test run a few weeks ago, but that's quite alright. I then opened this in AutoStakkert, did a quick analysis, placed the alignment points, and stacked the top 25%. Once the stacking was done, I opened it in Registax. I set the histogram's white point to 200, the black point to 15, and stretched the image. Next step was to do an auto RGB balance. And this gave me a pretty good result, but I decided to decrease the blue a tiny bit and increase the red to try and get some of the red color back. The orientation bugged me a little bit, so I rotated it so that the polar ice caps are on top. This is totally a personal choice and probably wasn't necessary, but I did it anyway. I have some wavelet schemes from my Jupiter days just a few months ago, and I found that they work really well on Mars as well. As I flip through the schemes, I think that Dyadic version 2 is what I like as my preset. I make changes to the weights and attempt to make the planet look a little bit better. These are the settings I used. Not all data is the same, but hopefully this helps you get started. I recommend playing with the settings and see if you can find something that works for you. And once you find something that works, save that scheme so that you can use it as one of your presets, come back to it later on and adjust as you need. When done, I clicked Do All to process the image, and then I saved it. I think I would have been happy with this image as is and share it as is, but I thought I'd get some practice in on AstroSurface and see if I can get some color out of the planet. In AstroSurface, I open the file, and then I play with the HDR function a little bit to make the planet pop a tiny bit. This adds some blue noise, but we can get rid of that with the color noise filter option. I set it to about 4 and the color fringing almost disappears. The local contrast setting lets me see some more of the planet's features, and I set it to 10, and I'm happy with this result. I use the sharpen filter option to add some more sharpness to the planet so we can see the features. I decrease the offset and up the gain a tiny bit, set the noise reducer to 7, and change the sharpening strength to 20% while doing some clean color noise. Again, play with the settings and see what works for you. What I use probably won't work the same way for you. And lastly, I work with the wavelets to sharpen further. I set the high frequency wavelets to 2 and put the strength to 50% so I don't overdo it. And even with this, I need to make sure that the noise pre-filter is set to decrease the artifacts. I increase the deconvolution iterations, and then I update the low frequency wavelets until I get a sharp-ish image. I play a tiny bit with the adaptive smoothing. I'm still learning AstroSurface, so I apologize if I'm not explaining all these steps in depth. But if you have any questions, ask me and I will try my best to answer them. In the RGB settings, I made slight adjustments to the red channel gain and upped the saturation and clean color noise to try and get the colors that I want. And once I was done, I saved the image. That may have been a lot of information in a short period of time, and if you want me to slow down in a future processing video, let me know. And if you have any questions about anything I did today, ask. You can also watch my video on Saturn's processing from a few months ago, where I go over PIPP, AutoStakkert, and Registax in more detail, where I don't jump around as much as I did in this video. As for Mars, I'm conflicted on which version I like more, whether the version out of Registax or the one out of AstroSurface. AstroSurface looks sharper, but I'm kind of afraid that I overprocessed it to try and get the colors that I like. And Registax, it looks a little bit more natural, I think, but it is not as sharp as I would like it. But I'll treat this as a learning opportunity so I can improve on my technique for the other planets and for Mars when it comes back around for opposition. Mars is still very big and bright, so if you think you missed it, don't worry, you still have a few weeks before it really starts to move away from us. So you can get out there, hope you have clear skies, and try and take a look at Mars through either telescope or try and image it. We won't see Mars's opposition again until January 2025, which is a long while away, but that just means that we'll have plenty of time to practice our techniques with the other planets over the next couple of years, and when Mars comes back around, we will be ready. Over the next few months, I'll be focusing more on deep space objects, so subscribe and come back and explore the universe with me. Until then, clear skies.